Hi everyone, in this video we're going to be introducing the 6 bodies of the martial body system, the 6 core attributes and what they represent. So as I've discussed in the videos leading up to this one, the martial body system is focused on producing 6 different attributes in the individual. Each of these attributes represents a certain quality of movement, of expression of force, of feel to the partner, and each one of them is distinct and unique. But it's important to remember, before we even talk about the bodies, that later on, as we get more into the advanced phase, these things come together and are in constant flux between one another. They're available to the person who has developed the martial body as and when they need to be utilized. So even though we do separate the system into these 6 bodies, we need to try and make sure that there's no sort of cracks between these different methods. They are, after all, expressions of one body and mind. So with that said, the 6 attributes of the martial body are heavy body, stable body, connected body, elastic body, spiral body and fluid body. And these 6 attributes come together to produce that unusual quality to somebody's movement, power or martial ability. So the first of the 6 attributes is the heavy body attribute, and this is the ability for us to use and utilize our mass in as efficient way as possible. The heavy body is closely linked to the concept of release and relaxation. If we were to stand up as tall as we could and then release ourselves, we would sink with the mass and weight of our body. This in essence is the concept of the heavy body attribute. It is the ability to consciously release so as to utilize our mass. The heavy body comes first in the list of the different bodies because it deals with resolving unwanted or unconscious tension. This is the first thing that we need to do in order to set our body up for the later development work that we're going to undertake. Next on the list is the stable body attribute, and this is the production and maintenance of good alignments and also associations between different joints. We can define the stable body as producing a frame that is well aligned and well able to handle incoming and outgoing forces. You can imagine that if we were poorly aligned and we tried to build muscles on a poorly aligned frame, we're going to end up with very strange pulls and postural deficiencies. And although we're not particularly looking to build up big muscles in the martial body system, when we do the development work later, if our frame is all strangely contorted, we'll end up with uneven posture and uneven power when we're trying to move with stability. The stable body is produced from this acute awareness of alignment. And although in the initial phases we're looking at keeping the body in alignment in very simple positions, later on obviously when we're doing martial arts or when we're sparring, we do need to be able to be aware of how our body is maintaining or losing alignment from one moment to the next. So much of the stable body attribute training is teaching the joints to associate with each other so that when we move with harmony. And also to understand and recognize, to make our body understand and recognize when alignment is lost. Once we've been through the heavy and stable phases, we should have a relaxed posture that is well aligned. And at that stage, we can begin to build on top of the structures that we already have in our body. And that's where the connected body comes in. The connected body is the joining of the body together to create what is called whole body power. This is a combination of developmental methods that develop actual tissues in the body and also neurological associations of those tissue chains. We are teaching the body to move as one unit, and to do that we link the body together through a variety of different chains of tissue. As these connections become stronger and stronger, our body naturally begins to move with whole body power, which makes us more efficient and makes us use less energy for a given action. The feeling of someone with good connected body skill to someone who may not training this work is that the person is extremely strong. And the reason is that the whole body backs every single movement that we make, whether it's 2 inches worth of movement, 1 millimeter worth of movement, or a foot of movement. All of the movements that we perform are backed by the entire body, from the fingertips down to the toes. Once we've connected to all of these tissues, we understand the lines in our body and we've developed these associations, we move on to train what I call the elastic body. The elastic body is related to agility and speed, and these things come from the development of the connected body lines and then adding elasticity into those tissues. The elasticity in the tissues allow us to stretch and recoil at extremely fast speeds. Not only that, we train in the elastic body section to improve the speed at which our neurology fires. Part of this is to do with something called the stretch shortening cycle of both the muscles and the connective tissue units. The end result is that we're able to move with agility and speed whilst maintaining all of the other qualities. So once we've been through this developmental phase where we actually change the tissues of the body and their associations to one another in the connected and elastic bodies, we begin to work on movement. And the final 2 bodies are very concerned with the way in which we move the body around. The spiral body is the production of what I call complex movement or movement complexity. And to do this, we move from simple point-to-point linear movement up into circularity and rotation, and finally to spiral movement, where we begin to work in circles and with forwards, backwards, ups, downs, lefts, rights, all these different directions simultaneously to produce extraordinarily complex movements. The way that we build up to spiral movement is very progressive, and even when we start to work with circularity, or what I call pairing, we already start to see complexity arise that is very hard for martial partners to deal with. This circularity and spiraling movement permeates the entire body, from the way that we move our shoulders to the way that we move even our fingers. And when we are using spiral body and it's embedded, it can be found in literally any martial movement. The end result of spiral movement is that it produces depth, difficulty for the partner to perceive, and also huge amounts of stable and balanced power. The final body, it should really be called the fluid mind rather than the fluid body, because it mainly deals with our ability to remain unstuck in martial situations, sparring, and even in 2-person exercises or solo training. Much of what makes us hesitate or stick when we're moving is how our mind is perceiving the situations that we're undertaking. Fluidity and flow states start in the mind, and that is why the fluid body, although also full of movement games to challenge our ability and awareness, is also full of mental training to help us remain in the moment. The fluid body is the final phase. When we've gone through all of the other phases of training, now we're in a position where we're able to work on the mind to set free all of the attributes that came before them. So these are the 6 bodies. The way that we train them is we start with heavy body, we work our way through to fluid, and then after a period of time return back to the heavy body and go again. Very much like peeling an onion, the more that we run this cycle, the deeper and deeper the body skill goes, and the more we advance from the foundational layer up towards the advanced layer.